What is up, Rejection Con? Day 2. How we feeling? How we vibing? I don't know about you, but day 2 feels are always incredible for me. I think about the music festivals I go to, and day 1, just kind of getting our ground and footing, or day 1 of a conference, getting our footing, and then day 2, we're here, we are ready to go. I am Laura Hennings. I am one of the sales coaches at Seven Figure MSP. You probably have heard of us. This is where I get to do an unshameless, shameless plug of the We Help. We help MSPs like yourselves double your MRR with sales and marketing strategies that work. Now, I'm not just saying this, I'm not just pulling this out of my you know what. We have people that actually see results, okay? And what I really love about our Seven Figure MSP community is we are not boring. We have so much fun. Giuseppe, you know what's up. We have so much fun. I like to say the biggest disrespect anyone can say to me is, Laura, you are so boring. Laura, your company is boring. Because no, that's not what it's about. We actually just had a live event last week in Louisville, Kentucky. It was all about AI revolution. And we had some powerhouse speakers. I spoke there. Chris, our CEO, spoke there. And we also had Jeb Blount. He is amazing. It was so great meeting him in person. I love how he's just so humble, down to earth. It felt like you were just shooting the shit with a best friend. And we had a really intimate lunch with some of our members. And we are actually having members build out AI services. They're using and leveraging their MSP to build out and scale AI services. And what we've done here is, if this is something that interests you, we have built out a AI playbook. Ooh, this is the wrong link. Let me go ahead. I want to drop this in the chat. So if you want to geek out, I got to drink with Wes. That's awesome. Giuseppe, guess what? Alex from Empath gave me Excedrin because there was a little too much bourbon tasting. And Alex saw me and I'm like, Alex, oh my gosh, I'm kind of hurting a little bit. He's like, don't worry, I got you. So thank you, Alex. He gave me some Excedrin. Okay, what I did is I dropped in a resource for you. If you are thinking of making more money, because who doesn't, using AI. And I want you to think about, if you're selling cybersecurities, even if you're in break fix, we are in the tech world. It's something I'm going to chat about more in my keynote tomorrow, but we are in such a beautiful place where cybersecurity and AI, they go hand in hand. The best thing we can do is to leverage ourselves as not only experts in tech cybersecurity, but also AI. So go ahead and eat up that resource. It's going to give you a 12-month roadmap, okay? Very good stuff. Another thing we pride ourselves on at Seven Figure MSP is community, is connection. I don't know about you, but especially after COVID, I want you to think about during COVID when we're doing all of our teams. We were doing all our meetings on Teams or Zoom, and we might still be doing that now. But that's why we pour so much love and energy into our in-person events. The last one was so much fun. We actually had a Roaring 20s party as well. We all dressed up as, well, the guys didn't dress up as flappers. They dressed up as some, what is it? Kind of like mafia hood. I don't know what it was, but we had so much fun. We had the tables. We were gambling with fake money. Some people won up to $7 million. It is so much fun. So point being is, get in the room, y'all. Get in the room at one of our events. Empath also does a great job at hosting events, as you can see. So we love what you're doing here, Empath. Donate, donate, donate. It goes to a good cause. And then my last call to action is to actually send a formal invite for you guys to join us. Join us at our next event in Fort Worth. And that will be July 29th to the 31st. I was talking to Maria, and she's like, let's make them a promo code. Last minute, she made you guys a promo code. Okay, perfect. We got the link to donate. I love that Tim's in the house. And then also, if you want to attend our next event, we went ahead and gave you 50% off. Fun fact about our upcoming speaker, Tim Golden. Love having you here. He was a part of our seven-figure community as well. I think it was back in 2018, 2019. But guess what, Tim? The way we roll around here is you're always a member of our community. But we are so excited to have Tim Golden here. You probably know him. He is the founder and CEO of Compliance Scorecard. His GRC platform helps MSPs like you build profitable compliance as a service and vCISO offerings. Huge. Again, we want to think about ways that we can add to our MSP in our stack. What better way to do that than compliance? We were talking about AI and also compliance. So Tim, he's helped hundreds of MSPs confidently scale compliance and is known for turning, I love this, turning risk into revenue. And the cool thing is Tim has found repeatable frameworks to do this. We love his no BS approach. He's also a US veteran, so thank you so much, Tim, for your service. He's a speaker, of course, and we are so excited to listen to you with over 2 decades of experience. So get ready, y'all, as Tim walks us through his 6-part framework and playbook on how to turn a vCISO service into a profitable venture for you and how to sell it with confidence. So let's welcome to the stage, Tim Golden.
Hey, Laura, thank you so much for that warm and humbling intro. Really excited to be here today talking about something that is really near and dear to my heart, as you all know if you've seen me around in the community. How to reduce some risk, how to boost some profits within your MSP. Yes, there's a QR code. I promise to Rickroll you, so make sure you scan that code. I'm kidding. This playbook, as well as a bunch of other resources, will be made available if you want to go grab them there. So again, Tim Golden, founder and CEO of Compliance Scorecard. Today, you'll get clear and actionable steps to adding a vCISO practice and compliance service to your offering, while significantly reducing your client's risk and growing your own profits. Today, we're hoping that you'll leave this session with actionable and immediate and practical guidance. As Laura said, no bullshit, no fluff. A valuable resource and some toolkits, including templates and playbooks that will help you launch and enhance your compliance practice right away. So we have a lot to cover. I'm going to go through some of this very fast. Again, the deck will be available after the fact. I mean, obviously, 60% of these stats are, right about 99% of the time. If our good friend Jay McBain talked about how the compliance operations in an MSP is expected to grow about 28% in the MSP space in 2025 alone, your customers are probably facing more and more stringent regulations like FTC and CMMC. For those of you that have been listening and are in the audience, how many have seen the almost 400-page document and changes to the HIPAA that's coming out, right? So as we know, this compliance is a really huge opportunity for you as the MSP, and you are well positioned to facilitate and charge for this work. As we dive in, we're going to kind of talk a little bit of myths. We're going to talk about actually the 6-part program to building out your vCISO offering. Excuse me. So having talked to hundreds and hundreds of MSPs over the last several years, we hear a lot that, our customers don't want to pay for it, or it's far too hard. I don't know how to do this work, or regulation only matters to CMMC and government contracts. Or the big one that I hear a lot, MSP shouldn't do this work. But the reality is that you are well positioned. You know what's going on in their IT infrastructure, right? You'll be able to help facilitate that work along the way with your customer, right? Another big myth about holding them back is that it only applies to certain industries. I urge you to take a look at the FTC safeguards. That was updated just not too long ago, and you'd be surprised at the number of industries that that would need to adhere to the FTC safeguards. So even if you don't think it actually applies, at least on the cyber side, there are a boatload of privacy laws affecting almost every state. Us as practitioners, we always talk about the cybersecurity side, but we don't talk a lot about the privacy side. And you would be surprised, things like California privacy protection and so on and so forth. Almost every single state has either laws on the books or about to become on the books. In fact, I just read something the other day. In Florida, the Bar Association just put out guidance essentially setting precedents that law firms in Florida need to have incident response plans, data flow diagrams, and a bunch of other things. So you're going to start to see this more and more and more, that regulations are coming down and you are well positioned to help your customers with that. So, what does a compliance offering look like? Boy, there's a bunch of bullets on this, and I'm not going to talk through all of them. But now that we've cleared up a little bit of these myths, right, we want to move beyond blinky lights and ones and zeros and bytes and bits. You, as that MSP, are the trusted advisor, just like they have their lawyer or their doctor or their lawn care company. These services, we want you to become the trusted advisor, being able to communicate directly and effectively with your customers, right, as you provide comprehensive virtual CISO services. It's funny because we talk a lot about the word vCISO, or V implying virtual, right? I mean, it's like Department of Redundancy Department. Well, we know that it's fractional. I always have this debate with our good friend Jesse Miller. vCISO versus fCISO, right? Fractional versus virtual. At the end of the day, you are the trusted IT professional to be able to help them uncover their business risk, have that risk, and have that risk conversation and guide them down a more secure, defensible position in their company. Excuse me one second. Gonna pause real quick to make sure I haven't missed anything in chat. If we have, I will make sure I pause along the way to answer some questions. Moving right along, we want to get into the meat of this. What is this 6-part thing I keep talking about, right? It is not, some of the things that you are probably already doing, right? We're going to go step by step by step here, but at a high level, it's understanding your customer, seeing where they are, strategizing about building a program, business impact analysis. I don't know how many of you have heard of the word business impact, BIA, before. Training your team, like our good friends at Empath, and then building an offering, pilot that offering. We're going to get a little more detailed into each one of these along the way. So first, ideal customer profile. When you're building out your, new go-to-market strategies, we talk about ideal customer profile. Yes, that is a good strategy, but that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about looking at your existing customers, right? An exercise for all of you would be to generate a list of your customers, determine which vertical they're in, determine what parts of the service offering they are currently paying for, and look at it kind of like a heat map, right? You're going to be able to start to identify some commonalities across your existing customer base. And our good friend Katie V is in here. She always talks ideal customer profile, total addressable market, all that fun stuff. I am talking about something completely different. I'm talking about in your existing customer base and understanding them as they stand today. I'll throw this challenge out to you. Take your top, 1, 2, 3 customers, those that you have a good long-standing relationship and rapport with, and ask them a simple question. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What drives you to make the widget that you make or provide the service that you provide? Right? Don't ask them what keeps them up at night. That's fear-based. Ask them what motivates them and gets them out of bed in the morning. That's where you'll start to uncover hidden risk, uncover potential for you to become that trusted advisor. It sets the precedent on a positive note. What gets you out of bed? What excites you? In the psyche of your brain, that flips that conversation from fear-based to positive-based. And it gets your customer in a much better mindset that they will open up to you. They will have that conversation. They'll be willing to share why they make this widget. And as you ask them questions about the widget or the service that they offer, figure out what are their top 3 or 4 customers. In those top 3 or 4 customers, are there contracts with those customers? And maybe offer to do a contract review on 1 or 2 of them, because you will find gold in that contract review. Yes, we're not lawyers, but when we're doing that contract review, we are looking for right to audit, service level agreements. There is gold in that customer's customer contract. Yes, you're not a lawyer, you're not approaching it from a legal perspective, but you're approaching it as a uncover the risk. So when I say ideal customer profile, I mean look at your existing customer base, find commonalities across them, find the low hanging fruit, and begin a conversation. And as you begin that conversation, you want to do a little bit of an internal survey. You want to ask them if they even know what regulations they need to adhere to. You want to ask them if their customers are asking about SOC 2 or ISO or security questionnaires, right? As you start to dive into and build out a questionnaire asking things like, when was the last time you had an audit? Have you ever been through an audit? Do you have formalized security policies in place? If you were breached, I hate to say the B word, but if you had an incident today, how would you respond to that? So we went from identifying an ideal customer into asking them some very pointed questions about their business and their business risk. And then you move into defining a service offering. You would be surprised, a compliance as a service offering, you may already be doing some of these things, right? I see a compliance as a service offering as backup, vulnerability management, policies and procedures, annual assessment, risk registry you may not be doing already, but that's okay. You may be doing a bunch of these things. In fact, cyber liability insurance is also starting to ask for some of these things. In the beginning, where we talked about, is it FTC safeguards or this framework or that framework? At the, it doesn't even have to be a specific framework. You can even start to look at cyber liability insurance. And there's 7 or 8 things that at least I suggest, and a lot of the cyber insurance companies are asking for, some of which you're probably already doing, or is not a heavy lift to add on as a service. Backup, vulnerability management, multi factor authentication, security awareness training, excuse me, annual assessments, policies and procedures. It is not a lot of things, and I guarantee you're probably already doing some of those things to begin with. So we went from identifying your customer, surveying your customer, starting to standardize a compliance offering. As you start to do that, and then actually conducting a business impact analysis. I'm going to pause here real quick. I'm going to ask the audience, if you have ever done a business impact analysis, put yes in the chat. If you haven't, you can still put no. That's okay. Just trying to take a pulse to see where people are. If you don't know what a business impact analysis, that's okay, because we'll talk briefly about what a BIA is. I'm not going to get into the gory details, but a BIA is, yep, I'm seeing some yeses. Wes, of course, yes. Oh, a lot more yeses than I thought. That's amazing. So I don't have to go deep into BIAs, but it's good that the audience here has done some of this work. Awesome job, you all. Keep doing that, because that then sets that threshold to understand your customer's risk appetite, if we want to say that word. It helps you understand the crown jewels and the things that are important to your customer, right? Asking those questions about, hey, if an incident happened, right, how long could you be down for? What critical systems could you not, go without, right? Being able to do that BIA and conduct that analysis to really start to put into terms the financial components of the risk. It's good to see that a lot of you have done that. I'm really excited. So I won't spend too much time on this particular slide. Once you've conducted the business impact analysis, we move into, hold on, why is my slide not moving forward? Next. There. Now, this slide is really important to me. It's probably important to Wes and our good friends at Empath as well, is to train your team, right? Being able to understand your customer, figure out where they're at, conduct some surveys and business impact analysis. But the single most important thing you can do as a business leader is train your team and teach them what the offering is, what's in those packages, how to actually have conversations with their customers, or at least those that are client facing, right? And there's a lot of different ways you can train your staff. I mean, Empath is just one of a multitude of ways. You could join a peer group. Or if you're a smaller MSP and maybe you don't have a lot of staff, there's a lot of MSSPs or pro service organizations out there that can augment your staff and work alongside you. The other thing that I like about being able to train your team is giving your team the time, empower them to do the work, pay them an hour or two a week to actually turn everything else off and invest in not only their own learning, but operationalizing a compliance program within your MSP and your customers. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about great. We have our team trained, we have our package built, we know what our customers are looking for. Pick one. Yourself. Be your own guinea pig. Do it on yourself. That way, at the end, you'll have your own house in order. You would have worked out some kinks. You would have built some confidence in doing this work on yourself. Work the plan, test the plan, learn from the plan, iterate the plan, and scale the plan. The download that goes with this is way more flushed out than what I'm talking about, gives you some very specific examples. But pilot the program internally. Or maybe you have an existing customer that you could approach and say, hey, we're rolling out this new program. I'm going to give it to you as a discounted rate, still charge for it, but maybe give them a discounted rate. Work with them and say, let them know, like, we've done some of this on ourselves, but now we want to take it to a real customer like yourself, help you identify those areas of risk so that we can help you protect that revenue, right? Do the work on yourself, learn a little bit, do the work on another customer, and then iterate. Compliance is never a one and done thing. It is a constant, evolving, ongoing. I know it sounds very dramatic. That's the point. It doesn't have to be dramatic. You need to dedicate the time, you need to provide the staff, and you need to iterate and learn along the way. And lastly, packaging and pricing. Now, we have seen a bunch of different ways on how you can package and price a vCISO offering. Some have as an additional line after. Some do good, better, best. Is my screen still sharing? That's just really odd. I don't know why my screen flipped over like that. Wes, if you could let me know if you can see my screen in chat, that would be great, please. As you're building out your packaging and pricing, whether it's an add-on service or it's part of your existing service, being able to do the good, better, best. In fact, I like to see, and I have worked with a lot of MSPs who build sort of 4 programs. The baseline ground zero of here is a set of policies, here is some security training, some backups, 4 or 5 things that are in a very small version that is, cost effective for your customer and easy for you to scale, right? That gets your clients set up with involving them in some of the work along the way and then maturing them over time. More policies, more frequent assessments, quarterly business reviews. Maybe you move into a zero trust world, doing that good, better, best along the way. Already augmenting your existing structure, your existing MSP package, and adding on the compliance offering. It is a great way for you then to build out a separate line of business and a separate income stream. And how do we sell it? So I am not a sales organization. That's where our good friends at Seven Figure MSP and Laura in the beginning here that can help you. I have been invited into conversations with MSPs and their customers to help them close those deals. I don't ever want to be a salesperson again, but yes, I am. Building out your vCISO services, you want to be able to understand how you can shift that from a cost factor to a revenue protecting factor, right? One of the biggest mistakes that we see a lot of MSPs do is come into the conversation with blinky lights and number of patches, number of vulnerabilities, like all the mundane things that business leaders don't really care a lot and could probably be delivered in an email, right? Having that conversation about what makes them money, what gets them out of bed and excited, narrowing that down and doing everything you can as an MSP to protect that revenue, right? An effective use of this is to be able to maybe use it as a prospecting, right? We hear a lot of MSPs. I want to do a scan and tell my prospect what they could do and build a roadmap to help them. It's sort of a low friction way of saying, hey, we found some things, we've uncovered some risk. We see that those risks are tied to your business operations, and we'd like to be able to build out a roadmap around that. There's a lot of different ways to sell compliance services. Talking to your existing customer base, once you've gone through the ideal customer profile exercise, once you've done a little bit of analysis around who they are and finding that commonality, it is fairly easier to go to your customer and say, hey, you probably didn't know this, but you process 1 billion credit cards an hour. And you should probably look at something like PCI, for example, or you have millions of healthcare records. And insurance probably isn't going to cover you if you could even get insurance. Why don't we look at things like the HIPAA privacy and HIPAA safeguards to be able to protect that data? So many laws, so many business, so many states have laws protecting data now, that is a good entryway into having the conversation with healthcare organizations. We hear it a lot. Dentists don't want to pay, doctors don't want to pay. Well, they have an option. They can pay for your services to help protect them and build defensibility, or they can pay after the incident, which will be far more money, far more reputational damage. So, in summary, with my last minute or so here, because I think I only had about 30 minutes and we're coming up to the 29 mark, the 6-part program: define your ideal customer. And I don't mean as part of your marketing plan, I mean in your existing customer base. Talk to them, survey them, understand what gets them out of bed and excites them. Build your standardized offering, conduct a business impact analysis around that offering, determine what they're doing and not doing, train your team, empower them, give them the time to do that work, and then pilot your program. Learn from that, wash, rinse, repeat. And as you do that, you will build a scalable operation that you can then take to all your existing customers and additional customers down the road. So thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about building out a vCISO offering. I know I went super fast. If you would like to learn more about compliance scorecard, about how we can help you have that risk conversation, you can always go to compliancescorecard.com and join any one of our live demos. I know I didn't talk a lot about our platform and our stuff today. That was not my point. If you'd like to get a copy of this download, the vCISO guide, some templates, some Excel documents, some Word documents, and all that fun stuff, you can always go to compliancescorecard.com/rejectioncon25 or the QR code. I know it's a QR code. We're all freaked out about the QR code. Again, I'll recap with I'm Tim Golden, founder and CEO of Compliance Scorecard, where we are here to help you have that risk conversation with your customer. Thank you.
Nice work. Really nice work. Let me move your, actually, let's leave your screen share back up if we could, Tim. Can you go back to your, I think 2 slides back, maybe one, yeah, that right there. Walk me through, and I want to know who has questions, right? So y'all don't make me hog this. I mean, I'll happily hog it because I want to talk to Tim, but what I really want is y'all to ask some questions to bring up. So while people are getting their brains going, Tim, I got a question for you to start. When we look
Sure.
at this 6-step practice, what do you think are the most difficult parts of this?
You know, it's always interesting about the difficult part. I think, you know, we hear a lot about MSPs struggle to have the conversation, struggle to be able to like, I know how to talk blinky lights. I don't know how to talk business. Right. And that's why I pose the question. Ask your customer, why do you make your widget? Like it's very easy to say that, right? That's, you know, it starts it on a positive note, right? Not what you know, what keeps you up, fear, FUD. No. Starting that conversation on a positive note of, hey, what gets you out of bed? What makes your engine run? What puts money in your bank that eventually can put it in mine? And I think the most difficult part is getting in front of the customer and feeling comfortable about having a business conversation.
Yep. I agree. And I think it's hard. I want to know, do y'all agree with what Tim just said? I mean, I definitely do. Give me a yes in feedback if you do. And then I'd love to hear any comments on that, because I think, and we got a question that came in from Fred. I'm going to ask it in a second. But Tim, I think you're right. And I think that it's hard. I'm spoiled because I've never been an MSP, and I came out of a cyber background and went to school for it, all that stuff, right? A lot of MSPs haven't and don't. And so they feel the imposter syndrome that's there, that comes with they don't feel like they match up, and they're speaking a language they've been forced to speak to survive as a business versus one that's native to them. And,
Mhm.
you know, that stinks, right? And it's hard to get over that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, all right, a little anecdotal backup 20 years. Federal government, you know, federal government contractor doing the work, blah, blah, blah. And we got a contract that said, you'll follow NIST 853. That's all it said. Nobody knew what that meant, i.e. FedRAMP. So what did Big Bad Tim do? I looked at all the controls and I'm like, you know, delete admin rights, delete this. And I just went in like a bull in the china shop and started just implementing controls. And then I had people knocking at my door, literally swearing at me down the hallway. And so I had to pump the brakes and I had to be able to stop and turn off the blinky lights and sit with the Wesses of the world and be like, this is why we're doing this, Wes. Have that why conversation. Like, we identified there is $5 million of annual revenue in that contract, that if we don't do this, unemploys 15 people. So
Yeah.
I could stop. We can lose the contract, or we can have an adult conversation about why this work is important and go do the work.
Yeah.
When I switched from Big Bad Hammer Tim turning on and off blinky lights to let's talk about why. I mean, this is uncomfortable for me. I'm not a business guy. I like to push buttons. I talk to the
Right.
computer, not the people I work with.
Right. Right.
And it was very difficult in those first years to be able to shift the conversation.
Yep.
And
Yep.
now, and what that did is that set the precedent. Going forward, I always had something to look back to, like, hey, we need to replace the backup system because of this.
Hmm.
Hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z because of this.
Hmm.
I am protecting that I'm protecting 15 jobs for your staff.
Hmm.
And that pivoted, and almost every ask going forward was approved. But it was hard. It was definitely hard going from turning things off to actually having the why conversation.
It is. Well said. Next question that came in from Tyler, and this is you'll like this one. This is very akin to asking Matt Lee, what is an asset? This question is really good. What's the difference between a vCIO and a vCISO? We offer a vCIO for all of our customers today, but I'm curious if we need a different level of offering or a different role entirely. I know there's a lot to say on that, Tim, but thoughts.
Yeah, the roles are different, right? And depending on the human that you have in that role and their own skill set, maybe they don't know a lot about cybersecurity. Maybe they don't know a lot about the specific compliance requirements that, the blinky lights that actually matter, right? Information officer versus security officers are a vastly different role. Is there a separation of duties there? It depends on how big the organization is, right? Like in our company, we're 20, 25 people. I don't have separate CIO, CISO, RPO. Like we're not big enough to have that, right? But we're still 20, 25 people. People think that's a big company. So, it really depends on the size of the business and if those roles are actually appropriate. Now, when we talk about the skills of the human, an information officer versus a security officer is most likely going to have far more technical aptitude than information. So there's a little bit of that nuance of they know a lot more about tech and blinky lights and ones and zeros and bits and bytes than maybe just an information officer. There's another myth in here and another underlying one that wasn't brought up in the question, and that is the glorified account manager. What's the difference between a account manager, a CIO, and a CISO? Right? I see a lot of MSPs make that mistake. They take a client-facing TAM, technical account manager or account manager, and stuff them into a vCISO role.
Right.
And that's dangerous.
Right. Yeah, because we talk about this at Empath all the time. Really, Alex talks about it significantly. The client's smart; they can sniff it out. And when you are primarily a vCIO, whatever you want to call the role, it's just a word. It's a group of words. But what matters is the action behind it. And when they're compensated on revenue, and when they're primarily coming to, as Alex says, knock on the door of the customer and say, "Hey, it's me, your MSP. I need you to pay me more money." No wonder we wonder why they're like, "Oh, I can't make that QBR. I'm too busy."
Exactly.
Sorry. What they're really telling you is, I know exactly what you're about to do to me, and I have no interest in that. And so, yep. Another thing I like to really talk about too is a vCIO is definitely should be focused on technology strategy.
Yep.
Should be the one that's helping develop the budget. Should be the one that's really helping, really align IT to the objectives of the business. Whereas a vCISO, and you can switch hats, right? Small MSPs have to switch hats, but is really concerned with compliance and all the requirements that come around compliance. And it might even be things like policy development and mapping, control mapping that influence technology strategy based upon the requirements that we have as the organization, whether it's cyber insurance or another framework, whatever it may be. And sometimes that's a helpful way. I know it's a simplistic way, but it's a helpful way to kind of distinguish the two.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's another question that came up. I thought this one's really good and you like it, from Fred. How can you use the BIA to protect revenue, operations, and reputation? What a great question.
Well, so what it's going to do is, I use the word crown jewels, whatever you want to call it. It's going to provide a roadmap for you to be able to work with the customer and understand what's important to them, right? I'll give you an example, right? So, a fairly large customer we had as an MSP, as a former MSP, and they were on the phone all day, every day, right? That was part. They weren't a call center, but they had lots and lots and lots of phone calls all day, every day. It told me two things. They didn't care about email. I could walk down the hall and unplug the Exchange server anytime I wanted. Yay. But it did tell me I am not going VoIP. I am going to get copper lines. I'm going to put a copper system in, and I'm going to make sure that old Ma Graham Bell, good old AT&T, those phones always worked, regardless of the weather, regardless of the factors, right? If I didn't walk through a business impact analysis and I didn't determine like their number one crown jewels to be on the phone, and all their business relied on them being on the phone. And if they were not on the phone, they were losing X amount of money, per hour, per minute, for doing some of that analysis and determining. But I could turn the Exchange server off. So what it did as walking through a business impact analysis is it uncovered those areas that are important, that have financial risk tied to them, and gave me a roadmap to make sure everything that I do protects that phone system. I mean, it's April, right? Accountants, you better damn make sure that their printers are working and their internet working. The only thing that matters from, the last 6 weeks of April, March and April, that their printers work, that they can get mail, they can actually get to their stupid, like we're in New Hampshire, it snows sometimes. You can't actually walk out to the mailbox. Like people don't think that way. So being able to use a business impact analysis to uncover those really important things. And I'm not going to get into RPO and RTO and all the acronyms that get into that. I mean, we can if we want to, but it's uncovering those business risks, understanding the financial impact of those risks, and how long you could be down without a thing.
Yep. Yep.
That's it
Well,
in a nutshell.
the only other thing I'll add in 10 seconds is, if you haven't done one, start one with your own MSP. Watch it open your eyes and watch. You will understand just how valuable that conversation is, and you'll also understand how much you actually don't know about your clients. And those don't knows are the things that will kill you, because Tim, you're exactly right. Some things, it's seasonality, it's critical items that we just never thought of. I never realized that, yeah, if an accountant can't get out to QuickBooks Online, they're in major trouble, and they're in major trouble if it's tax season. What a great point. Another question that came in, this one's from Roy, and it's really good. vCIO versus vCISO. If we had to invest in one or the other, which one?
So that's really going to depend about your offering, right? When we talked
Right.
about, I'm not still sharing. All right, it doesn't matter. I'm not sharing the screen. It's really going to depend about your MSP and what direction you're taking your MSP, right? If you're just going to stay where you are, and maybe those customers, once you do your internal ICP on your existing customers, once you do that existing client base survey, you're going to start to determine, like, wow, a lot of these are information heavy, but and maybe all of them have no technology strategy. They have no security strategy. They have no 1 year, 3 year, 5 year tech plan. Maybe you bring in a CISO to help build that strategy, right? Because that's where it's all about. Is maybe you just need to protect the data and help them understand and discover where it is. Maybe all you work with is research companies. Okay.
Right.
But if you have a broad spectrum of clients, like most MSPs do, and you look across them and you determine none of these have any strategic direction to them, I should probably look at somebody to help me build a strategic program for ourselves,
Right.
and something we can scale for our
Right.
customers.
That's right. Yep. Well said. Well said. We are at bingo. Want to thank Seven Figure MSP for sponsoring this session, Laura and the rest of the team. Don't forget that right there, the Seven Figure MSP events. Use code REJECT for 50% off. Just want to say thank you to them. And Tim, my friend, as always, you crushed it. This was fantastic. Look at all the claps coming in for you. Appreciate you. And make sure y'all, the next sessions are about to start. So click on schedule, go find your session of choice, and we'll see y'all over there. Thanks so much, Tim. Thank you.
Thanks, Wes.